Hey guys, it's Ty,
And I'm Joe.
and we want to invite you on a journey of increasing your financial IQ
By learning about strategies millionaires and billionaires have been using for decades.
Welcome to the Wise Wealth Podcast.
Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Wise Wealth Podcast. We're so grateful that you guys took the time to spend with us today, whether you're driving, whether you're pumping iron. By the way, that's what we're leading into today, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, I was a little bit of the focal point is in this business owners series. We were talking about network marketers, right? The profession of network marketing. Well, today we're going to highlight gym owners, fitness. So Ty, I know that you've owned a gym before. Look at that Team USA shirt. For those of you just listening, this stud has
got to catch the YouTube. This is a very nice Nike Team USA shirt here.
Yeah. So, this is true, farmer strength you're looking at right there. Look at that. The Rock ain't got nothing on Ty. Hey, man, come on. I know, I want to ask you, I know you've coached Team USA. You've owned gyms, you ran gyms, you've coached at a high level. Just tell me, what's one highlight of your career that I wouldn't know about? Just tell me, because I know that just give me one.
Just one highlight. I'll give you one, and I'll give you more after that.
Okay.
So most of them, they're all related to weightlifting coaching. So like you highlighted, Joe. I'm a coach for USA Weightlifting. I still, to this day, I even coach at my kids' school, showing youth how to lift weights properly. And so one of the highlights to date is being named the head coach of Team USA for the Youth World Championship.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So people were like, "Wow, so you coached?" Yeah, this was the longest flight I've ever taken so far in my life. And we flew, me and a group of female weightlifters, the best ones in the country. We flew to Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and we competed in the youth. Yeah, that was quite an experience, because it's not like it's not like in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
Things are a lot different there as far as facilities and some of the niceties that we have access to. It's not the same there. So that was that was kind of like a missions trip, if you will, Joe, for many of these young ladies, and even, of course, the guys that were there. They got a taste of what it's like in another country. It's just not, some of the comforts that we have here are just not there. So that was probably one of the highlights of my weightlifting career. I also ended up, I was the men's head coach of the Pan American championship before. I coached at the Junior World Championship as a personal coach, and I had one of my female athletes ended up being the silver medalist at the Junior Pan American Championship as well. So that was pretty awesome. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's the next question I was going to ask you, is that out of those youth, youth that you coached, out of all the youth, was there one that went on to win medals, in the future, or who was,
Yeah, probably the Junior Pan American medal was probably the. It's hard to say most talented, because we're talking about weight classes here, Joe. So these are obviously, there's opportunities and different years and the weight classes that the athletes are entered into. It's very hard. I love every one of my athletes that I've coached, and it's just really hard to pick out one and say, oh, is that one the best?
Correct.
Because it's really, I mean, think about this. You have a 120-pound female athlete, and then you have a 185-pound female athlete. They're two totally different athletes. It's like comparing a cornerback and a left tackle. It's like they're not the same. They're both really good athletes at what they do.
It's great. Yep.
Yeah,
And they both can be elite at what they do, but
they're both
completely different.
absolutely, yeah, both
So,
elite, but different.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
great.
I mean,
Well, yeah, that's awesome, man.
like you said, I did a many years coaching. So I started coaching back in 2001. Basically, as soon as I went into law enforcement, I started coaching at the same time. And since then, it kind of developed into owning a commercial fitness facility. And I owned a commercial fitness facility up until April of 2022.
Mhm.
So during that time, I picked up lots of items that I wanted to kind of cover today, Joe, to really help out, you know, open up the eyes of business owners, and specifically, we're talking to those in the fitness industry, whether it's an online coach in the fitness industry or brick and mortar. A lot of the things that I'm going to talk about today are brick and mortar struggles that will arise. So I
Correct.
got like 11 things I wrote down. We
Yeah.
probably won't get touch on all of
Yeah.
them, but
Let's start there,
maybe we
though.
will.
Let's
Maybe
start
we
there,
will.
though.
We'll see.
Let's start with the gym owner struggles then, because there's lots of business struggles. So, I know in our network, you and I, we both know a lot of gym owners, people, me being in a nutrition business for 10 years, and you do what you're doing. So let's start there. And we're talking about these struggles, and here's the good news, though, is we believe we have, not a magic wand, but we have a process that's
Oh
going
yeah.
to add so much value and you've got to think long term. You got to think, if you had a process that you implemented and you were building as you're building your private family bank, uh, you're able to overcome some of this. But let's start for you. Many people don't, and even if you're thinking about starting a gym, what are some struggles that they're going to have to understand and know that are there.
Yeah. Um, I think the first thing, yeah, you can call it. I've labeled this in my notes like equipment financing or like startup costs. Like, what is it? Those are huge costs. A a fitness facility has a brick and mortar fitness facility has a very small margin, if you will, meaning the amount of profit that it is able to generate each month is typically relatively small, typically pretty small. Okay. And this is,
Mhm.
we're talking about group fitness, medium, small group fitness, 20 people or less in a class. We're not talking about personal training here. That'll be like a whole nother offering that you could bolt on inside the gym. But we're just generally speaking for today, we're talking about like 20 people or less in a class. One of the things that is going to be a kind of a heartache for gym owners, Joe, is going to be equipment financing. How much does that stuff cost?
Yeah.
A lot, a
Yep.
lot. So if you're going to run a class of 20 people, how much equipment do you need? So for example, if you need a barbell because you're going to do a strength movement, okay, well maybe you can do groups of two. You probably want to have your people work together, and that comes with good coaching and being able to manage the class properly. But okay, so you need 10 barbells. You don't
Mm.
buy cheap barbells in a commercial fitness facility. For one, it's a huge liability, and two, you're going to end up replacing them every couple years because they're going to the sleeves are going to fall off, bars are going to
Expensive.
break. You don't want that. And typically a good vendor, I won't name them, but there's one that I always use. It's also probably one of the most expensive, but they always stood by all their equipment, and they would replace it typically if a barbell broke.
Mm.
um, so equipment financing, so some of the traps that gym owners run into is taking out a loan to fund the startup.
Mm.
Okay. Depending on the cost of that money, you could be driving yourself in a hole. And so this is also a problem as the gym is already established. Say you're in year one, year two, things are booming.
Mhm.
And then you're a gym owner, you'll start getting inquiries from different companies. And these companies are supposed to be there on your side to help you grow and scale, Joe.
Mhm.
So here's basically two that I've run into in my 14 years having a commercial fitness facility. So you have high interest business debt. So they will basically, you have cash flow. That's great. And they're going to qualify you off of your cash flow. And then you're going to get on a payback term that's, it might be monthly, it might be like a weekly type thing. And you're going to end up paying like double of what you borrowed from them to facilitate your
Wow.
scaling. Like, hey, we're going to knock down a wall. We need more equipment. Okay, so if that's going to cost you, $50,000, you're going to end up paying back like $60,000, $70,000. And Joe, a lot of these are not. It's not your typical loan, and they won't really even assign an interest rate to it. This is what's very interesting, and you have to understand how interest works and how these companies are making money. You couldn't even pay back the loan early. So if you take 50 and they say, oh, your payback is 60 or 70,000, you can't pay it. Oh, okay. So you could pay it back early, but it's going to be $70,000. It's a
Wow.
locked in payback.
Wow. No
So
way.
that would be like a business loan, but there's also something that's called MCA. The heck is that, right? What does that stand for? And whether I know we're talking about gyms, but restaurants, any retail business, typically small, medium-sized businesses are able to utilize this, and it's typically the devil. A merchant cash advance, Joe, that's what MCA stands for, is you're selling your future sales to a company so you can have a lump sum up front.
Wow.
And typically what that does is it crushes you. It crushes your cash flow. You think it's going to help you that much. It doesn't really help you that much. If you had a different strategy, which we're going to talk about today, of systematic savings and a vehicle that's going to create velocity for your money, you would understand that you would never do an MCA. You just wouldn't do it. You would figure it out a different way. So merchant cash advance, that the payback on that, Joe, is going to be like you borrow $10,000, they're going to want several $100s per week to get that paid back, typically within a 6 to 12 month time frame. So it's going to crush your cash flow. It's absolutely going to crush your cash flow. So equipment financing is a big thing, and that's something that doesn't really go away, Joe. You will always have to buy new equipment. It's a fitness facility. Stuff gets destroyed.
Yeah.
It's not like a garage gym where you get a few reps in a week on each piece. It's going to get crushed. Your stuff will have to be replaced. So that is
Yep.
something that until the day that gym closes, you will always have to replace equipment. You'll have to upgrade equipment. You'll want a new piece.
Yeah.
Okay. You might offer new services and you'll have to buy new stuff. So equipment financing is definitely a pain point, but the solution would really be to have your own private bank, your own infinite banking policy, Joe, where you could get your own cash flow.
Yeah.
And you could be creating wealth that's going to sustain you for all the years that your fitness facility is open.
Well, let's talk about that because you talked about a systematic savings. So,
Yeah.
what? How important is that? I know that's equipment
This is
finance is right up there. Where do you rank savings? Let's go there.
so I read this recently, and this is how important systematic savings is. And this is from a book called Principles Based Planning by Kyle Christensen. And it's a absolutely fantastic book. So listen to this paragraph, Joe. Delayed gratification is required for savings to work. The only way delayed gratification works is if the reason you're delaying is more important than the reason you would not delay.
Wow.
Your future freedom from having to work for money has to be more important and just as clear as the reason you want to buy that shiny new vehicle or piece of gym equipment or that nicer, bigger house or more square feet in your gym. If the reason for saving is not clear, it cannot be very motivating and you will not stick to it.
Wow.
So how important is systematic savings? That important. It's your freedom. It's literally your freedom, your ability to one day you won't be a gym owner. One
Yeah.
day you might want to do a second career depending on how early you started that.
Yeah.
One day you might want to retire and say, "Hey, man, I was in the gym business for 20, 30, 40 years.
Wow.
What happens when you want to retire?"
And you should have an
You
exit strategy. You
Yes, you
should.
have to. It's a business. You have to have an exit strategy. Absolutely.
And
So
your identity
systematic
doesn't need to be tied into it. If you can't say no in 10 minutes, your identity is tied to it.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure your identity doesn't get wrapped up in being a gym owner as well. But go ahead, Ty.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, the systematic savings, you ask, well, how important is that? It's a foundational principle of what every business should be based on. That's
But
what
you
it should be
see how
built
one
on.
and two go together, because if you're doing these MCAs and these high interest, I mean, you can't save because that's going,
Mhm.
and so hopefully there's a way, if they're in that situation, they can still work their way out of it somehow by starting smaller, just saving something. But you see how that number one just crushes these crazy
It does.
interests.
It's a trap. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's a trap.
literally it's a trap. So without systematic savings in place, it's going to cause the business to get buried as the cost of doing business is it doesn't go down over time. It just goes up. Your property taxes will go up.
Mm,
Um, you know, typically a lot of these are rented spaces. Your the taxes that you're charged or the landlord's charge, he passes that on to you. So your taxes are going to go up. The operating costs from the landlord will go up. That all gets passed on to you. Your tangible personal property taxes, like the stuff that you have inside your facility, you get taxed on from the
mm,
county. At least that happens here in Florida. So all those costs go up. So if you don't start a systematic savings, what's going to happen over time? You're going to get buried. You just get
yeah.
buried. So it's important to start this even before you get into a fitness facility. But like you said, if you're already in a fitness facility, what you can do is you can start to pay off some of those debts, and then you'll start your systematic savings at the same time, because that's exactly how infinite banking policy
Mhm.
works to help you do that.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's foundational, just like when our personal finances, a systematic savings is foundational. And I also want to make sure that everybody knows that saving is not taking risk, Joe.
That's right.
Savings is not taking risk. It's not. You don't have to take risk to save money. So inside an infinite banking policy, you're not taking risk, you're actually transferring risk.
Correct.
You're transferring the risk. So you have guarantees, so you know that your business is built on solid ground and a very firm foundation. So you can run the race for however many years you're going to stay into your fitness facility.
Mhm.
So, starting an IRA for your, and you say that I'm going to put my business, some of the profits into a retirement account or a brokerage account is not saving. That is far from saving.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. You also talked about taxes. You and I love the private family banking, infinite banking process, because where else can you legally grow money tax free besides a Roth, IRA, and you're limited there.
Yeah.
But
Very
every
limited.
that's something every business can avoid. Uh, you can't,
Yeah.
you can run from it, but you can't hide. So let's talk about taxes.
Taxes are a very interesting thing. They're not going away. Sorry, we don't have a magic solution to
Yep.
delete all taxes from your fitness business. It's not going to happen, right?
Mhm.
So you're generating income, you should be making a profit. You should be making a profit. If there's not, there's some other complexities inside your business that need to be improved so you can profit. But the way that the infinite banking policy plugged into your business will work is it can start to create a tax-free income for you as the business owner. So over time, the amount of funds that you put into this policy, this is a long-term play, the amount of funds that you put into this policy are going to be dwarfed, Joe, like absolutely encompassed by your cash value. And your cash value is simply the amount of cash that you have available at your disposal to do anything and everything that you want.
Mm.
That's what the cash value is. So, taxes, you have to understand that that is a struggle. A lot of times, as a business owner, single member LLC, taxes at S corp, you'll probably have a little bit of a tax bill at the end of the year. So what if you budgeted and systematically saved for, having a couple $1,000 tax bill at the end of the year? It's really not a bad thing. You'll take your deductions where you want to level out your net profit at the end of the year. Obviously, there's lots of strategy to this, and your CPA um, and your tax planner, your tax strategist could help you plan for things that you have coming up in the future. Obviously, if you're going to buy a house in the future, or you need financing for a car, if you're going to finance a car, I don't know why you'd finance a car, but if you're going to finance a car, those are things that you might need to plan for in the future. Mainly
Right.
just the house. That's a big one. Gym
Mhm.
owners, you write off all of your you can basically delete your tax bill because you're going to have plenty of expenses. But
Mhm.
if you choose to take all of those expenses and then it says, oh, you made minus $122,000, and you're going to get a couple $1,000 um, tax return back, and then you're like, oh yeah, we're going to buy a house next year. No, you're not. You sure aren't, because you don't have any income. And you're like, oh wait, but that was business stuff. I paid myself. Well, you didn't, because your business lost money. It says you're negative 122, so it doesn't work that
Um,
way. So taxes are a pain point, and that's really like that kind of goes into one of the other points is like life qualification, like how you're taking deductions to kind of even out those taxes, Joe. If you had this money setting aside, that would help you finance the things of life, so you can save on your taxes, take your deductions, and make a bigger down payment, or pay cash for your house because you have this large lump sum in your
That's
cash
right.
value inside your infinite banking policy. Wow, so you could say I could take my deductions and not have a tax bill, a big tax bill at the end of the year, and then I'm literally financing my home, the vehicle, whatever it is that you need to go through life inside of my infinite banking policy.
Mm.
And when I say financing, that you're financing it inside your policy, what that is, Joe. Actually, why don't you explain like the loan feature? Like, what is that? That's what that when I say they're financing it, I'm talking about the loan feature inside of the IBC policy.
Yeah. So, this works because of, when someone builds up their bank, they're able to borrow against it. Right now it's at a 4% loan that they're able to. So this would make sense if it was a crazy, loan feature. But as they're borrowing, let's say at 4%, the money stays in there and it's still growing.
Yeah,
Let's say if we're just being conservative, it can grow up to 6%. But if let's just say it grows at 4% while you borrowed it, well, we gave the example, a few weeks ago. If someone has $30,000 and they borrowed, at 4%, $30,000 over the course of 5 years, they would have paid $3,100 in interest. But the
mhm,
money that stayed in there grew over 6,000, around $6,500
yeah,
that it grew. So just by doing one thing, right? It's not a get rich quick. It's just being more efficient with,
yeah,
doing one thing. And like you said, the house, we have a colleague who had over, a $500,000 in his bank, borrowed against it, put a down payment on a house. And guess what? Because he didn't pay himself back for a whole year until he got stable and started a new career after he lost a business. So he didn't have the creditors come hounding him, every week. When are you going to make a payment? So there's flexibility and freedom in that as well.
oh yeah, and that's I love that. We point out, we say this every week, Joe, and one of the things I just love that we're very fundamental. We're not trying to make infinite banking better than it is. We're not trying to, you know, lead people and say that this is, these bells and whistles and this is how it works. We're very straightforward with it. And it's not a get rich quick.
Yeah.
It is being fundamental with repeated things day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out. Okay. It's just habits. And it comes down to systematic savings inside a vehicle that is much more efficient than your checking account or savings account.
Yeah. What are some other things that, taxes, obviously, savings, that's for a lot of people, that's okay. Yeah, I understand. I need
Yeah.
savings tax. What are some things that we would even think about, that you've lived for over a decade, um, that we should, be aware of?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest ones I would say that gym owners run into as far as pain points is going to be their seasonal cash flow.
Mm,
So quarter four, you're a gym owner, you know that in the last 2 to 4 months of the year, it's tough. It's
mm,
very tough. So you get this huge influx toward the beginning of the year,
mhm,
and typically, depending on your area that you're in, if, you're going to stay pretty level through the summer, and then toward the end of the year, going into the winter months, your profits or your
People
revenue is
start
going to
hibernating?
decrease.
Do people
It's
start
going to decrease.
hibernating?
They start hibernating, Joe. People start hibernating. They're gone. Your cancellations, your requests to pause are going to come in, and people are going to feel pain points. And a lot of that pain point, actually, Joe, is fundamental. It's because they're feeling pain because they have increased expenses during that time
Mm,
of year.
mm,
So they're going to put their health and wellness on the back burner,
mm.
and they're going to cancel your membership or say, pause me and I'm going to come back in January. So what happens quarter four is things kind of go down. And one of the things that I did in quarter four is I always ran special programs and try to enroll people for the beginning of the year. So I was bringing in new people that were going to be scheduled to start at the beginning of the year. I would do that in quarter four to make sure that it stayed level or grew a little bit in quarter four instead of declining. So seasonal cash flow, it happens. It
Yeah.
happens. These are recurring memberships that happen or program based where you're going to enroll a bunch of people and you'll have great cash flow in these few months, and then it will decrease because they're either not going to renew into your program or the renewal will be at a lower amount because you would do a medium ticket entry, $1,000 for this many weeks in a program, and then it would go into like a recurring membership after that. So
Okay.
seasonal cash flow, it's like this, Joe.
Yeah.
It's like an ocean in the gym business.
Ebbs and flows.
So if you could plan for seasonal cash flow to make it level throughout the year by using your infinite banking policy, because you have all those cash values that you've built up and have at your disposal over time, why wouldn't you do that? It's
Yeah.
systematic savings. So that stress that you feel as oh my gosh, this month was a $50,000 month, or it was only a $20,000 or $10,000 month, whatever level you're at, $100,000 month. Like, you don't need to feel that stress because, and you don't have to, feel like you have to work 700 hours a month because of that stress, because you've planned for that. It's already taken care of. You've planned for the seasonal cash flow. You've
Wow.
put those funds aside. So seasonal cash flow is something that I'm pretty sure every gym owner, every gym operations manager can resonate with. So a systematic savings plan inside of infinite banking policy is going to help you get through those seasonal cash flow times. You're not going to have to cut people's hours. You're not going to have to, cut back on the resources that you're providing your clients. You'll be able to get through that, and then you'll be much stronger. So seasonal cash flow is a big, big one in the fitness industry.
That's awesome, Coach. Well, let's look beyond the years of the gym. Let's look at
Oh yeah.
you and I talked about retirement. Um, in an episode, how infinite banking can be for retirement. Well, let's talk about gym owners. We talked about an exit plan. What are gym owners doing right now for retirement? Are they even thinking of retirement? Give them some nuggets here.
Yeah. That's a great one. For many business owners, and I would say for many gym owners, if this is their sole source of income, I would say not many of them, Joe, are even thinking about retirement or what their exit plan is.
Mm.
It's not even on the radar because things are slim when they start out. They're undercapitalized, and retirement's not even on the radar. And then before you know it, it's 5 years later, and they haven't done anything or any strategizing for retirement. And then before you know it, Joe, it's 10 years down the road, and they're in this gym business. It's doing pretty good now, and they haven't even thought about retirement. 10 years of time. 10 years. So, Joe, this one vehicle, an infinite banking policy, which is a high cash value life insurance policy designed for growth and accumulation of cash for you to use at your disposal without a credit check, without a underwriting to get your cash values, without having to fill out an application that has to be approved by management to access your cash values. It's your cash value that you've accumulated over time. That one vehicle, Joe, that's helped create or to help delete issues that come up in a fitness gym owner's career, can also provide for their retirement. So I ran some numbers on this, Joe, and the numbers are basically they were on me, and I just took like a 30-year-old person, and I just ran some numbers that I want to share.
Okay.
So just taking 20%. 20% of cash flow, 20%. And in this case, it's $10,000. 20% of cash flow, and you start to cycle it through a policy, high cash value life insurance policy, for 13 years. That's it, for 13 years. At the end of that 13 years, this person would have accumulated $1.7 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
1.7.
Yeah.
I wonder how many
1.7
percentage
million.
of gym owners are doing this.
Joe, the numbers I gave you were the guarantees.
Yeah.
This wasn't like a non when you look at a life insurance policy, it has a guaranteed column and a non-guaranteed. I gave you the guaranteed.
Hmm.
So this 30-year-old or 31-year-old gym owner, 13 years later, at 44, is sitting on $1.7 million. And most likely it will be somewhere between 1.7 and what the non-guaranteed is, which is actually $1.8 million. That's $200,000 more than what they put in at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. So that's just the beginning. That's just 13 years in, Joe.
Yeah.
So at that point, looking at the guaranteed growth of their infinite banking policy that they've set up from year one till now, they're able to receive $48,000 a year without ever touching their principal, guaranteed.
Wow.
But most likely it would be closer to 100,000. The guarantees at 48, the non-guaranteed is about $100,000. That's without touching the principal, Joe. And the principal in that very next year is, like I said, we're at $1.7 million guaranteed. This is not this. We're not speculating. Oh, well, you might be able to retire. You could walk away from the gym at 44 and retire. And also, since this isn't a qualified retirement account, you could literally retire because you have access to this money. It's not, oh, you got to be 59 and a half. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to be 59 and a half, Joe. You can put in your time, 10, 15, 20 years, however many years you're going to stay. And if you're under the retirement age, you can walk away.
Yeah.
You don't have to be 59 and a half to have access to your cash values
Yeah.
inside of your life insurance policy.
Yeah.
So you're sitting
Wow.
on $1.7 million. But let's just say you're going to do another career. Just say you're going to do another career. And you just let it ride, because remember, your cash flow has stopped at age 44. You sold your facility, you closed your facility, whatever you did. In this example, the policy is ended as far as the contributions go, but the growth continues. So let's say at age 55, you decide, 11 years later, you're gonna hang it up completely. You've stopped doing whatever the next thing is that you've done. At that point, assuming you haven't taken anything out of your infinite banking policy, Joe, your policy has grown to $2.3 million.
Wow.
That's the guaranteed side.
Guaranteed.
And remember, the last 11 years, you haven't put anything in the policy. Nothing. Yep. You haven't put anything in it. And then most likely on the non-guaranteed side, the numbers will be closer to $3.1 million. Wow. Joe, it's tax-free. Yes, you're 55. You don't have to be 59 and a half. You can access your cash value. You can buy your beach house. You can ride off into the sunset and not have to worry about, not being at retirement age. You can hang it up. You've taken back control of your whole banking function in your life, and now you've provided for yourself in retirement.
Wow.
This is how every gym owner should be planning from day one their exit plan. This is what they should be doing, Joe. This is exactly what they should be doing.
I think this is a great place to let this plane. And we talked about, this, we're going to be giving away a couple of these books. Go ahead and email in. Tell us what you thought about this episode. If you know a gym owner, share this with them. And this is so good. We're going to come back next week, and we have even more to unpack, don't we, Ty?
Yes.
Yes. We're just,
it's part one.
This is part one. But listen, email us any questions, any comments, anything you'd like to hear from us. Guys, we're gonna be giving away 2 of these books. So email any questions. We're gonna pick a couple people. We're gonna send you this book, Becoming Your Own Banker. This was so much value. I know that I can't wait to get this in the hands of several gym owners I'm thinking of. Ty, any last thoughts before we leave them this week?
No, this is, you can hear it in my voice, Joe, that I'm very, very, very passionate about helping gym owners and helping them unlock something that I wish I started when not even when I first opened the commercial fitness facility, when I first started coaching. I wish I started it when I was 20 years old. And
wish I started as I was 18.
the way money flowed then, if I utilized that cash flow that I had and into vehicles like this, it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, thank you.
You have a great item at your disposal to really plan for your future.
Thank you for going through, your journey, your experience for the last almost 2 decades now, and not just sitting on it being a bucket, but being a funnel. Thank you for sharing your journey, your experience with us, because you're making us all better. So on behalf of Ty and myself, thank you for joining us on the Wise Wealth podcast. Be sure to like, download, subscribe, give us a review. This is our gift to you.
Yes.
Your gift back to us is sharing this content and leaving a positive review. So, hey, blessings to you. I'm headed to spring break. Peace.
Enjoy, Joe. See you all next week. Take care. If you would like more individual information on infinite banking or retirement account solutions, Joe and Ty would be glad to connect with you individually. Please email us at info@wisewealthpodcast.com, or you may visit us at our website at wisewealthpodcast.com and contact us there.